Hey, happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, howdy, howdy. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope. That's right, presented by thegaminggang.com. So, welcome aboard. Today is Wednesday, March 6th, 2019. It's a Wednesday, it's Wargame Wednesday. Yes, that's right. Because I love to do Wargame coverage on Wednesdays. Now, that being said, the review that I'm going to be doing tonight is SpaceCorp 2025-2300AD. This is from GMT Games. It is designed by John Butterfield. I guess we can't really say this is a war game, right? So, it's not even conflict simulation, but it's still a meaty experience. Hey, and Robert Moffat's popping in. How's it going, Robert? Haven't seen you in a while. Anywho, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually also, as a bonus, going to unbox and take a first look at Ghost Front, which is for Old School Tactical Volume 2 from my pals over at Flying Pig Games. And how are they my pals? Well, I'll tell you what. That is because Wargame Wednesdays are sponsored by Flying Pig Games as well as Tiny Battle Publishing. That's right, two great companies from the mastermind Mark H. Walker, who's also a pal of mine. Do want to point out, Tango Down is actually shipping right now from Tiny Battle Publishing. It looks very, very cool. It's kind of a tactical level house clearing game, so looks like there's kind of like time bombs and man on man and things like that. So pretty cool. All right, Kabuki Kid is here today, too. How's it going, Kabuki Kid? Good to have you joining tonight. So, do want to point out, as you can tell already, this is a live stream on YouTube. If you are watching live, there is chat available. It is not on screen. It's one of the ways that I kind of keep some of the stranger commenters at bay, but I do pay attention to the chat as best I can. And so if you want to say hello, or if you have a question, or if you want to learn something more about SpaceCorp or Ghost Front when I'm taking a look at those, by all means, feel free to chime in and I will respond. So Robert Moffat says, hey, I've got my copy of OST Ghost Front. Super cool. Yeah, Old School Tactical's good. It's a good game. It is old school, but not super old school. It's not 1970s staring at the rule book going, wow, look at all these case points. It's not to that extent. And it's got some modern flashes to it as far as mechanics and systems involved as well. All right, so got a big show tonight, so we're going to kind of dive right in. No news tonight. I did announce last night that I am going to actually kind of take about a 2-week break of sharing tabletop gaming news during the Daily Dope. And amazingly enough, now granted, I have not had a ton of views on that video, I think 25 or so, simply because it was a game that I think a lot of people weren't overly familiar with. Zephyr Winds of Change from Portal Dragon. Oh, it looks pretty cool. Those who were watching live last night were kind of like, started off like, I don't know, I'm not feeling this vibe. To the end, it was sort of like, yeah, this is looking pretty cool. I gotta check this out. But amazingly enough, I had some folks chiming in, shooting me emails saying, hey, we really like the tabletop gaming news. Don't take it away. So, you know, I don't know. Kind of playing around a little bit, experimenting a little bit. Because, especially on Wargame Wednesdays, I find that I get a lot of like nasty emails and kind of wonky comments when I do tabletop gaming news. It's like, oh, it's like a commercial. It's 30 minutes of commercials before you get into the game I'm waiting to play. Anywho, so, all right, so, yeah, there's, hey, Ghost World's popping in. Hiya, Ghost. Yes, Zephyr was a pleasant, unexpected surprise. It sounds cool. I will be doing my best to be playing that this weekend. Yes. Hey, and Lead Magnet's popping into SpaceCorps. Yeah, SpaceCorp. Corp. I know, and I really want to say Space Corps, like Marine Corps, but there's no S at the end, so it's Space Corp. And I keep wanting to have two words, right? Space and Corp, but it's actually just one. It's SpaceCorp. Anyway, speaking of SpaceCorp, 2025-2300AD. Yes, it is from GMT Games. It's designed by John Butterfield, with artwork and graphic design by Chad Jensen, Kurt Miller, Douglas Schrock, and Mark Simonich. The game is for 1 to 4 players. It's for ages 14 and up. It takes 1 to 4 hours to play. It's going to be depending on what eras you're kind of jumping into for this. And it does carry an MSRP of $82. So let's see. Before I jump in here, welcome to the Monkey House. Okay. All right, Kabuki Kid. News before the content I want to see, but I can't figure out that I can just fast forward past it. You know, and I say it every time when I'm doing the news. Every single time I do the old, here, let me jump back real quick. I do the old, yeah, hey, take a look at the show notes below if you want to skip past the news. And I still get emails from people who are like, oh, what are you getting paid? What are you getting paid to share this news or something? It's like, no, not at all. All right, so let's jump on into good old SpaceCorp. And I am going to kind of give folks an idea of how to play this game. I am not going to go into a huge, deep dive into this either. I'm just going to kind of touch on a lot of the game itself, what kind of is going on in the game. This is a, I would say this is like a 3X game. There's no extermination. So you're expanding, you're exploring, you're exploiting, but no, you're not exterminating. So this is kind of a, early on in the eras, it's kind of a hard science fiction style look at humanity taking to the stars. Okay, so something that I'm very interested in. I am a big fan of the series Mars on Nat Geo, although I haven't gotten a chance to check out the second season yet. I'm one of these guys, I like to binge stuff, right? I like to have all the episodes out and then I can watch them all like over a period of a couple of nights, except for Game of Thrones. Don't get me wrong, Game of Thrones, I'll be on that like white on rice as soon as it's coming out. So anyway, the premise is that each of the players, and it's for 1 to 4 players, each of the players is representing pretty much a conglomerate of corporations who are looking to expand out into space. So the bottom line is, I'll give you a great example. Realistically, this is going on right now. Elon Musk over at Tesla is a huge believer. He feels that we need to expand out into space, and we need to colonize space. Not necessarily go like way far away, even if we went to say Mars, or even if we start a colony on the moon. But he is a firm believer that, and it makes sense, right? That if we go out into space and we colonize, then it's pretty much impossible for the human race to be rendered extinct. Makes some pretty good sense. Now, not necessarily, no chance of it happening, because if we're still in our own, like, Milky Way and the sun, explodes, well, doesn't matter where those colonies are. I think we're pretty much still in bad shape. But anyway, I'm going to kind of tour around the board. I'm going to show off different boards here. I'm going to show off some of the cards. We're going to talk a little bit, like I said, about how to play. And I'm going to show off some of the other boards, because this is not just Moonbase Alpha. Yeah, the old Victory Point game, which I reviewed, which I thought was okay. I didn't think it was great. Isn't there a movie, Moonbase Alpha? I could have swore there's like, isn't there like an old 50s movie, Moonbase Alpha? Well, oh gosh, what is the one movie where it's not Destination Moon. It's one that they really ripped on with Mystery Science Theater. And it was I think it's Rocket Ship X1 or something like that, and they're like, Expedition 1, and it's like, yes, Expedition does not start with an X. So it's like, aha. All right, so anyway, so we're going to take kind of higher level view at this. A couple of things I'm going to point out, which is, this is pretty unusual. Now, I'm going to take a stab. Now, I don't know. I don't know anything about, Moonbase Alpha, Space 1999. Okay, cool. I'm thinking Moonbase Alpha, the game from Victory Point Games that came out 5-6 years ago. So we've got a solitaire rulebook. So we got a solo rulebook here. And when I did an unboxing, we kind of flipped through. And plenty of images throughout here to get you kind of up to speed. So this is playing solitaire. And playing solitaire through, there's 3 eras, basically. So we've got the Mariners, we've got the Planeteers, and then we have the Starfarers. So the Starfarers is once we've gone out and humanity is, colonizing the galaxy. So talking about the different rules, it's pretty interesting because playing solitaire is quite different than playing with other players. And it's the AI that's built in. I sort of get the idea. This is the impression I get, and this is what I was starting to say. I honestly think this was John Butterfield was designing a multiplayer game, and at some point in time, maybe it was Gene Billingsley over at GMT. Maybe he said, "Hey, John, could you put together a solitaire aspect to it?" And John Butterfield, being a pretty damn good designer, probably sat back and said, "Yeah, okay, I can do that." So this is the multiplayer rulebook. Now you would think that, okay, so I'm supposed to read one of these rulebooks first, and then I piggyback on that to read the other rulebook. That's not the case. That is not the case. If you're going to play multiplayer, read the multiplayer rulebook. If you're picking up SpaceCorp is how I keep wanting to actually say it. So it's because I have the space madness. But if you're going to play solitaire, read the solitaire rulebook. If you're playing multiplayer, 2, 3, 4 players, read the multiplayer rulebook first. I honestly think that this game will do very well for GMT from gamers who are looking strictly for a solitaire game to play. Too many Moonbase Alphas. Muppets in Space. Yeah, that's right. We'll get the Eagle as the captain. Okay, so first of all, the name of the game in SpaceCorp is money. It's money, 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 money. And the money is actually tracked in the trillions. So we've got this board here. Now, you can play one era and wrap up the game. You can play a couple eras and wrap up the game. You can play all 3 eras together if you want, and then wrap up the game. Yes, Ren and Stimpy. Yes, it was a Ren and Stimpy reference. Yep, the space madness. Yeah, we won't talk about John K anymore. Ugh. Weird dude. I mean, as in criminally weird. That guy ought to be in jail. Anyway. So, you're going to track. So as an example, I just took the blue player. So you're actually going to be tracking your trillions. So we've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, all the way around. Little surprised that we don't have like 1, 2, 3, 4, then the 5. It's not a big deal, but I'm kind of surprised we just don't have all the numbers running around the board there. Because sometimes, you know, it's like, yeah, you got, especially if you're playing, say, like 4 players, you're going to have people's profit markers, or profit tallies here, kind of around, and sometimes just at a quick glance, you're like, wait a second, what are you at? How many do you have? So, just pointing that out. But anyway, we have contracts, and one of the ways that we're going to be able to get money financing is from different contracts, and SpaceCorp has kind of a Euro-ish flavor to it, not heavy Euro, where you're kind of, you feel like you're playing just a puzzle, but you do have like kind of goals. So there are 2 ways for the game to actually come to an end. And it's when you have 6 of these 7 contracts completed in an era. So we've got the Mariners, the Planeteers, and then we've got the Starfarers. So say we just wanted to play kind of a quick game. Maybe we want to play an hour, hour and a half. And yes. Yeah, I'm not real sure... Kabuki Kid, I'm not real sure about how to spell Johnny K's last name, but yeah, he's kind of verboten. Speaking of him, so anyway, so once you've got 6 of these completed, and it's not the same player, it's just any 6 of these completed, then that activates the end conditions for the game. The other way to activate the end conditions, which will happen a little more often, is if you no longer have cards in the draw deck and the draw deck is empty, then that's going to activate the final turn as well for the players to play the rest of their cards. So this is a card-driven game. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and we're going to take a look at the player HQ. I'm going to cover this up. We're going to zoom in just a touch. There we go. And then let's move this around a little so we can get this in the shot. And I'll just push these cubes off of Earth for the second. Okay. So this is really a card-driven game for what you're looking to do as far as basing your actions. So each of the players is going to start off with, if you're starting off in the Mariners, right? Because as I mentioned, you can start in the Planeteers, you can jump into the Starfarers if you want. Me, personally, I really dig the whole, okay, these are our first steps into the universe. Like I said, big fan of Mars. I've listened to some audiobooks as far as how are we going to get to Mars? What are we going to do even further on out, futuristically? Personally, I have to admit, I think the 2300 is, I don't think we're going to be as evolved as John Butterfield imagines in this game. I think it's going to take us a lot longer than just, 300-ish years, 280 years or so. So, everybody's going to start off in the Mariners with a card. Now, when we take a look at the cards, we're going to see a few different things. So we're going to see, okay, so what is this? Okay, so it's a chemical drive. Okay, got it. It's the sort of rockets we use now. Chemical drives. So it gives you a move of 1. Now, this card is telling me I can upgrade this as a infrastructure card as well. If you look at your HQ, and everybody's HQ is going to be the same, but it's all going to depend on which era you're starting in, because I'll just show these off real quick. We've got different HQs. So if you were going to play either Planeteers or if you were going to play Starfarers, you're going to start off with this. So if you're going to play both of those together, you're going to start off with this. Now, if you're just going to play the Planeteers, you're going to start off with this. So as the eras progress, what you're looking at is you're looking at having a lot more options available to you, just more powerful HQ to start off with. So also in the HQ, we see various different bases that can be built by, I'm the blue player, right? So this is, let's say this is mine. So we've got, now some of these can't be built during the Mariners. You have to, some are from Planeteers. But just to kind of give you an idea, we've got refineries, we've got spaceports, industrial, we've got research, biolabs, an exploiter, a shield factory, secure, well, and then an attraction, yes, space attractions, which of course, that is what a lot of these different groups trying to, like SpaceX. SpaceX is number one. They're looking to be able to privatize space travel, but they're also looking to provide, entertainment. Basically pay $250,000. We're going to send you up into space for a few hours and come back down. So, yep, hey, that's what happens when you're rich, right? You can blow money on stuff like that. So it's giving you an idea of the different bases that can be built. Now, there's a lot of other stuff involved in this game, and I'm not going to jump in and talk about a lot of them, but we've got different colonies that will eventually pop out. We've got different genetics adaptation. We've got breakthroughs that can be made. Got a lot of stuff going on in this game throughout the eras. So what you're going to do is each player is going to start off with their one chemical drive, and I do want to point out, if you are playing solitaire, this is going to work differently than with multiple players. But one thing that does not change is your handy dandy reference card. So these are really nice. These are actually really nice stock too. So it's going to tell you, okay, so what's the turn sequence? Now, some of this stuff you would not necessarily be doing right off the bat, but essentially each turn you're going to have an opportunity to conduct an action. So that action can be researching, moving, exploring, building, production. It says produce, but we got genetics, we've got revelation, got upgrades, special, and establish colony. Now, a lot of this stuff we're not doing we're not establishing a colony in the Mariners. We're establishing bases to allow us the opportunity to move on out to past the asteroid belt. So these are the actions you're able to perform. It tells you exactly what you get to do. You got a turn sequence here. So each player is you're going to conduct your action. You're going to fulfill any contracts. The contracts are over here. I'll show them off in just a second. You've got rewards. So you could possibly have rewards. You have an opportunity to transport teams. You're going to get 2 teams to start off with. You got 2 teams here. We're on Earth. 2 teams for... I'm just showing, like, if it's 2 players playing. You got 2 teams there. We've also got discarding and replenishing offers. And we have the draw phase. So if you have fewer than 4 cards in your hand, you can draw the top card off of the deck. So starting off, you're not going to have much cooking, right? You've got the chemical drive. You get to move 1. That's the only card you're going to have. So obviously enough, people are going to actually be drawing cards and doing research probably for the first few turns. But let me move on over, and I'm going to bring over the contracts so folks can get a better look at this. So, as we see here, as I mentioned before, it's all about the money. It's all about the Benjamins. So we've got some of the different contracts here. We've got the first produce action. Whoever gets to take the first produce action is going to get 2 trillion megabucks. Once there are 4 Lagrange bases, and I'll show you the map in just a bit, the board in just a bit. 4 non-Lagrange bases. First base on Mars. Your genetics cube has advanced 2 spaces. cards in 3 infra slots, and bases in 5 regions. So once, as I mentioned before, once 6 of those have been taken care of, doesn't matter who's done it. It doesn't have to be. It's not going to be the same player. But once that 6 of these take place, then that's the end of the era. And if you were only playing to a certain point, let's say for an example, you were going to play, we're going to play Mariners, and then we're going to play Planeteers, and then that's going to be it. You would actually play until you go, and you would activate the end sequence for the Planeteers, which it's still the same thing, but you're looking at 6 of these contracts. Because what'll happen is if you're playing more than one era together, you're going to actually have this board stay the way it is. So let's say, for an example, these are the 6. It's an example, right? This is a hell of a lot easier than this. But let's say, for an example, that would activate the end of the era, but we're going to play through the Planeteers. So what happens there is these are just going to carry over. We're going to leave this set up the way it is. We're going to be at our profit, whatever. We're going to bring out the new board. We're going to bring out the new deck and take it from there. We're going to swap out the decks because, I'll give you a great example here. So we're seeing some of the cards. We've got offers. We have 4 offers that are running down the side here. And we know what set or what era these cards are from by taking a look at them. So if we see just, a sliver of the moon, that's going to be the Mariners. If we see a planet with a ring around it, like so, then we know that is the Planeteers. And let me move this. If we see this kind of star, then we know that this is actually going to be the Spacefarers. So when we're playing as just in the Mariners, we're going to be using a different deck. So if we take a look, we're going to seed the deck. So each of the players is going to get a chemical drive card. Everybody's going to get that. Everybody's going to get a copy of that. Then there are 12 starter cards. So let's say in a 2-player game, each player is going to get a chemical drive card, just like so. And then the other 10 are going to be shuffled up. 4 of them, and they're going to go on top of the deck here. 4 of them are going to actually get laid out here. So basically what it's doing is the first few decades, first few years of this is basically pretty slow moving. We're just taking our baby steps out here. Oh, maybe we get to the moon and we establish a base or something like that. But once that's done, then we start getting some cards that are going to allow us to do a bunch of different things. So early on, we're just pretty much getting a chance to move. We might get a chance to explore. We might get a chance to build a little bit, like so. But that's going to be it. Now, one of the cool things about this game is that you have your headquarters, right? So, to move around, to kind of give you an example of how we're going to move around, and now I am going to move this over a little bit so we can get more of this map and more of this board in here. So this is Earth. So all the players are going to start on Earth. If you're playing a solitaire game, you're gonna have your teams, and then you're gonna take all the other cubes, and you're gonna take them all, and that's the competition. You're playing against the competition. Space bucks, yep, space balls. No, it's trillions of dollars, man. It's trillions. All that money. It's all about the money. Anyway, so like I said, what you would do is you would actually grab all of the cubes from the game, minus the ones that we actually track our progress wheel down here. And you would actually keep these off to the side to actually track what all the competition is doing. You're not going up against one corp. You're going up against multiple different corporations. You're taking on everybody else. In a multiplayer game, no, you're taking on if a 2-player game, it's me and the other corporation. There is no AI. There's no additional AI included as far as like a 3rd and 4th player. So if you play like the coin games, the counterinsurgency games from GMT, you know that there's all these flow charts and things like that as far as each of the factions from a game if you're playing the bots. This does not do that. It has a bot that represents all your competition if you're playing solitaire. So I was going to say, one of the cool things about SpaceCorp is that when you start getting cards, you can play as many cards as you want, and you automatically get to add what you're doing together. So, for an example, I automatically am going to get move 1 because I have that on my HQ. I automatically get an opportunity. I can research 2. And it says infra. It's basically your infrastructure. So what you're basically doing is you're kind of building a tableau here. You're building an engine to drive your exploration into space. And there's a race aspect to it that you're looking to, first one who's going to do this is going to get these trillions of dollars. So, for an example, if I were to play just that card as my action, just one card, I would get to move 2. But the thing is, you have to look at the way this is all set up. So, we have Earth gravity is +2. So that means just to get off of Earth, I need to have a movement of 2. Now, if I want to land someplace, I have to be able to go there and land. So, it's 2 because of the gravity, right? But it also costs me 1 to blast off. So it costs me 1 to get just to launch. So in reality, we're looking at it's 3. So 1 to blast off plus the 2 gravity here. So that's 3. And then if I want to go someplace, then it's 1. Now, there will be locations that are also going to have gravity. For an example, Mars. So that's going to cost you extra to be able to land. Now, in the corner is a handy-dandy chart. And when I zoom out, I'll show it. That actually tells you these are the exact distances. These are how many moves it would take you to go from, say, Earth to Luna, or the Lagrange points here. Or if you were going to the outer Lagrange points, or to Mars, or to Halley's Comet, which is up here. Got Halley's Comet. We've got Sisyphus, which is another area that you can go to. So, you have to play your move cards to be able to get to wherever you're trying to go. What I would be basically doing, to give you kind of an idea, let's pop this over here, is in my first action, obviously, I'd sit there and say, okay, I want to research. Now, we've got these cards here, these current offers that run along the side. You got to get them. Well, the getting's good. So if something pops out there, you got to grab it before someone else gets it. And if you're, say, playing solitaire, you want to grab something good before the bot, I should say, might take that off the board. Because remember, these aren't going into once they're played, they're not going into a discard pile for you to shuffle them up, to deal them out, to put them out again. They're going to come out once, and that is it. So as an example here, this Explore 1 early on, that's a damn good card. I might want to grab that because I can use this to either move or explore. Cargo pod. You'll see more of these, but you can move or build one. So I would probably research and I'd say, okay, I'm going to grab a couple of cards. So when you research, I've got to research 2. That means I can draw 2 cards. So I can either take the current offers or I can actually draw from the deck itself, from the top of the deck, the top card. What did I just do with the deck there? Yeah, here it is. So when you're doing research, I can either take from the offers or I can take from the game deck. So I could have said, well, there's nothing out here as far as the offers go. I'm going to try my luck by taking a couple of cards here. Or maybe I take one offer and one of these cards. So what you're doing is you're building up your hand of cards. As long as you have 7 or fewer cards, you can always do research. There is no limit to the number of cards you can have in your hand. So let's say first turn went by and we were both doing research. Me and the other player, we were doing research. Now I might sit there and say, okay, so I could conceivably play the move 1, 2, 3, 4. That would give me a move 4. That would actually get me to the moon. It would get me to Luna. And once I was on Luna, I would actually be able to decide, okay, later on, do I want to explore? Do I want to try to build something here? But if I use those cards to do the move, then I'm looking at, well, who's to say I'm going to get another explore card? So I would honestly probably research again. Sit on Earth, wait on Earth, research again till I got more cards, get more moves, and then be able to start moving out and go to Luna. Because going to Luna is like the first step. That's what you want to do. You want to be the first player who gets to Luna and explore it and then build something on it. Now, one of the cool things is, as we see here, we'll get cards that will tell us may upgrade as infra. So you may use this to upgrade and put it into an infrastructure slot. So what this now means is that I automatically get 2 movement every round. Every turn, I'm going to have 2 movement, and then I can play what other extra cards as I want to continue doing one thing. You can do one thing. Basically, you're looking at right here. These different actions. You get to do one action. So the game moves really fast. It moves along really quickly because you're not sitting there doing a ton of different things all in the same turn. Kerbal Space Program. If they'd had a board game, this would be it. No, actually, it would be Kerbal Space Program would be Buzz Aldrin's Race to Space. I think that's a really old PC game. I used to play the hell out of that. It was great. But I could have swore somebody made a board game out of it. Because Kerbal Space Program is kind of the successor to Buzz Aldrin's Race to Space. Race into Space, maybe it was called. Okay, so anyway, one of the cool things is you can use anybody's headquarters. In a multiplayer game, you can use anybody's headquarters. So if, say, another player had... All right, come on. Let's grab something here that's not just moves. All right. Oh, there we go. Okay, so let's say, for an example, my opponent, or one of the other players, let's say they've got this. They've got a solid nuclear drive. See, may upgrade as infra. So you get a choice. It can count as move 2 or it can count as explore 1. Now, for an example, let's say I'm on Luna. It's got an E1. So this means anytime we see an E with a number, that means we can explore that. We might find something cool. Might find something that we can exploit or something that's going to be worthwhile, worth money to us. So as an example here, let's say I was on Luna, or we're using Luna as an example. I'm probably further out by this point. That card comes up. But let's say I'm on that planet. I could say, okay, well, I'm going to explore, and I'm going to use your headquarters to do it. So an E1 means I have to use 1 exploration point, just like so. And I would go and start taking a look at these counters here, these discovery counters. So, as we see, it's got the little sliver of the moon, so of course that means that this is for the mariners. So we got E1, E2. So we have one more counter here than we actually do have squares. So there are 2 E2 squares, and there are 5, right? Yep, there are 5 E1. So there's actually a little spot down on the board for you to keep these. So let's say I say, yeah, hey, I'm exploring 1. I would spend that. I get to flip that first one over. Whoops, come on, you. And it says, hey, it's natural wonder. Now, anything that's on the left is something I get right now. So I discovered this natural wonder. I'm getting $2 trillion. Yeah, $2 trillion. But that's all I really get out of this, because if it had something like every turn, I would be able to get something if, say, I do a produce action, something like that. If I have a mine on something, then I would be able to gain every turn. I should say refinery on something, not a mine. But that would still be a natural wonder. I would get $2 trillion. I would move my counter on the contracts sheet. These are basically victory points as far as the money. And keep going from there. So what you'll eventually do is you will start moving out and going out and building bases. So as an example here, I'm on Luna. We explored. Now, let's say, and now keep in mind, not all of these bases can be built in every era. So some of them are early, some of them are late. But for an example, we've got in the era here, it'll show there's the little half moon. So an attraction, yeah. So if we discover an alien artifact, we've got biolab, we've got industrial, we've got the refinery, we've got research, we've got spaceport. So that's what we've got as far as in the mariners. So what you're looking to do here is you'd say, okay, well, I'm not really going to be building a spaceport on the moon because that's really close. But we are going to want to start considering spaceports once we get out into this outer ring here. Because we can actually transfer our teams by way of spaceports. So without actually having to play cards, we just use it as an action transporting the teams. So what we could do here is we could say, oh, well, okay. So I've got Luna, I have build, got the build action, right? The build 1, and it'll tell you what is required for me to do this stuff. So to do an industrial base, there has to be water or a P, a production number on what I found. If I wanted to do a refinery, it's got to have a P. If I want to do research, no, I don't have to do anything. There's no requirement for me to get research. And then it says, what do I get? 1 built, take 1 card from the offers, or advance your revelation marker 1 space. Revelation is on the progress wheel right here. So once we go a full time around on the progress wheel, we're looking at, depending on if it's genetics or if it's research. If it's research, we get a breakthrough. If it's genetics, we end up getting an adaptation. So just basically looking through this stuff. So spaceport, the site is a Lagrange point. Okay, so that's a build requirement. The site has no gravity penalty. And the discovery tile is neither anomaly nor dust. So it tells us. And then we have here in multiple players, the end of an era. And if you're playing a solitaire game, the end of the era. So all of this stuff as a player stays the same. All right, now if you are playing, and like I said before, if you're playing solitaire, this game is way different than if you're playing against another player. Because, as I mentioned before, the bot really doesn't have like flowcharts or anything like that. the bot is just basically going to be working by way of a deck. By way of a deck of cards. So, what you end up doing if you're playing solitaire, and I'm not going to go into all the solitaire stuff because there's all these little things going on. Not super complicated, just a bunch of things that you kind of got to keep an eye on. So, when you're playing solitaire, what you start doing is you're taking the cards from the next step, from the next era, but all you care about is this info down here. That is the information that you care about, is this section right here, because that's going to tell you what is your competition doing. So you'll have things like, okay, so here's an example, Luna. All right, so say Luna. Now you have a sheet. Yeah, where did I throw it? Where did I put that? No, these are the player aids. I could have swore I had the solitaire game cheat sheet. Oh, I know where it's at. It's still in the box, dummy. All right, hold on. Let me get this out here. Okay. Here. So it's going to tell you, what does the competition do? So, competition, you know, so if they're building bases, you have different edges, which I'll go through the deck and we'll find an edge card that I can show you. But it's going to tell you, okay, competition actions, right? So it says, hey, it says I have to go to a spot, right? So it said Luna. So it says, okay, so is there a competition team there already? Is there a cube from you know, your bot, right? From all your cubes here? And if so, says, okay, so there's not one there. Well, you're going to do this. Oh, yeah, there is one there. Okay. So is it a Lagrange site? Is it a site with empty explore box? Is it a site with a discovery tile? Tells you all the stuff that you're going to do. Okay, so when you have an offers action, which I'll find, just grab. Come on, you. Oh, here we go. Okay, so as an example, now this says offers 13, but that's not how you're going to actually read this. You're going to look at it, it's offers 1, 3. So what happens here is offer 1, which is up here, off camera right now, would come off, and offer 3 would come off. And of course, you would reseed these. But what happens is it's basically the AI, the bot, is burning these cards. So that's one of the reasons why I mentioned, regardless if you're playing multiple players or if you're playing solitaire, if a good card comes up, you have got to get it. Don't sit there and wait, because it'll end up disappearing. If you're playing multiple players, it's going to disappear because another player is going to snag that. And if you are playing solitaire, more times than not, you're going to find that the bot is you're gonna draw a card, and it's gonna take off that damn card that you were hoping to get. Okay, so we've got edge cards too. So we have a few edge. Let's look at the edge in the actual era that we're looking at. So this is the game deck here. Now remember, you need to have a card to do stuff. You can't just say, like, for an example, you've got a refinery someplace and you're like, yeah, I want to make some money off it. You need to use the produce. You have to produce with the cards. And remember, keeping in mind, you only get one action. So you can't be sitting there and say, okay, well, so my action here is I'm going to produce and then I'm going to move my team. No, one or the other. All right, so we get these edge cards. So these just throw, some new little wrinkles in as far as a card. Sometimes, depending on what the edge says, you can play it during your turn. Sometimes you play it during the opponent's turn, or either or. So here it says, the beginning of any turn, name an action. Till the start of your next turn, that action can't be taken. So it's sabotage. course, if you're playing the solitaire game, you have to kind of take a peek to see with the edge as far as what happens here. So we got a hack at the start of an opponent's turn. Take one card from the offers. So it's basically you hacked into their research. So anyway, so as you continue moving along, as we get into this deck, we will have opportunities to do more stuff. So for an example here, right? Move 3, and it even says you may upgrade that as an infra. So obviously you would probably be sitting there going, oh yeah, I'm going to use one of my slots here, and I am certainly going to put this here because right off the bat, regardless of what cards I would have in my hand, I'm getting a move 4. That's a 4 move on the action. All right, so as we continue to move out, you'll see we'll have these bands, right? So for me to go from Luna to, let's say, Solar Lagrange point 2, it's going to cost me 1 to lift off from Luna. So that'd be 1 move. Now keep in mind, there's no gravity, so I don't have to pay any extra for that. So that's 1 move there, 2 moves to get to this area here, 3 to land. That's how you go about moving around. Now, you have to always land. You can't end a movement floating around in space. You can't do it. You got to land. So if you notice too, these are, like it'll say B2, B2, B2. This means that I can actually sit there and build a base. I can build bases on these locations. So what I would probably look to do if I got to the solar point here, and there are 3, there's a ring, right? I would probably say, okay, I want to build a spaceport eventually, get to the point where I could build a spaceport, because this is going to help me make it much easier and much cheaper, not having to burn as many cards moving around to get out into here. Because really we're looking to get into Mars. We're looking to explore Mars, and then once we get to Mars, usually about this point in time, we're getting close. I'm going to just move this down because there's some stuff going on here. It's going to get close to activating the end game, and then we also we've got out to the asteroid belt is right out here. So, like I said, remember we got these contracts, so we're keeping an eye on these contracts, because also taking care of these things gets us money and moves us closer to ending the era. All right, so let me get this stuff out of the way and show you some of the other decks. I'm going to show you the other boards. Now, this is one of the things that I find really, really unique about SpaceCorp, is that we've got the different eras. So this I'm going to zoom out for. There we go. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. Yeah, is that the whole board? Yeah, pretty much the whole board we're getting in here. To kind of show these off. So I'm going to get some of these cards out of the way. But we've got all these different decks, right? So we got the different decks for the different eras. So this is the deck here for the Planeteers. And we see that these are the starting cards because they'll have a little band on it. And then these are the cards that follow. So these are these are all scrambled up a little bit. But we also have time cards, which depending on how many players are in the game, you might get these time cards that allow you to do more in a turn. It's kind of like the passage of time. It's kind of taking advantage of like scientific breakthroughs in time. Over here, we've got the cards for the space fairs. As you'll notice, not a ton of cards in the space fairs. So if you've played various different GMT games that have kind of different decks, where you kind of go, oh, like say for an example, when you're playing Twilight Struggle, where you go, oh, well, we're going from the early Cold War to the mid-Cold War. Now we take the early and the mid decks, shuffle them together, and that doesn't happen. That does not happen with this. as you move into a new era, you're actually going to, so let's say we're moving into the Planeteers. You're going to take this board here. Now you're going to start needing a little more room, because you're going to flip this over, because this is now where we're going to put our decks. So remember, I was talking about we've got breakthroughs, we've got adaptations that can take place, we've got colonies. This is an information board that we're going to keep out. So these are the breakthrough cards, these are the adaptation cards. So you're going to actually put these down. Some of the various different adaptations here. So you're actually going to say Star Children, you're going to put those there. So you're going to fill these in. But I think it's kind of cool that suddenly, okay, now we're going to be moving on from Mars, and we're pushing on out. And when we do that, we break out a new board. If you're going to play the whole game, if you're going to play all 3 eras, especially if it's your first time playing, you got to allow yourself about 5 hours. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind you're going to need at least 5 hours to get that down. Even once you understand the game, playing multiplayer, even just playing kind of the Mariners. And it's funny, every time I say Mariners, I'm thinking Seattle Mariners. Every time you're doing that, you're looking at 2 hours. Now, granted, by the time you kind of figure out everything out and how everything works, you can probably get the Mariners down to about an hour. But if you look here now, here's our inner solar system, right? So this is where we were. So this is Earth. This is Mars. This is the moon. This is Halley's Comet, stuff like that. Yeah, Robert, it would be 5 hours if you're going to play the whole thing the first time out, figuring this out. The reason why I mention that is because now we start moving into different stuff. There are more rules that start coming into play here. So for an example, one of the biggest things, which is something that reality is something that humanity would have to deal with, is once we get out there, the radiation is just going to be unbelievable. So here we've got the radiation, we've got radiation. So once you get into radiation areas, you kind of have to, a lot of times you're going to have to spend extra. You're looking for shielded cards, where the card will actually say, it'll have shielded on it, which means that whatever you're doing is actually shielded from radiation. There's an adaptation that can actually come into play where humanity becomes more attuned to radiation. We become more resilient against radiation. Actually, that's one of the cool things with some of the adaptations. This is where we start getting into like really kind of science fiction stuff, which is as we push out in this game, what we're looking at. We've got Star Children. So you actually, this is kind of basically that you get a new team. You get an additional team to send out. So you've got that. Energy efficient. Cooperative empathy. Sensory focus. Envirotolerance. Hybrids, here we go. That's pretty interesting, the hybrids adaptation. Low body mass. Yes, that's something that would take place. So we start seeing, going out. Now we're looking at Jupiter. We're looking at Saturn. We go all the way to Pluto. So this is during the Planeteers. This is where now we're moving out. Now we're actually going to start colonizing some of these planets. Hey, Viper Dave's here. Hi, Viper Dave. Good to see you. So So that's the Planeteers. Then the third era, the final era, is the Starfarers. This is where we start going and we're exploring new galaxies. So we've got, so now everything before, now we're here, right? So everything that, every era that we were playing in, the first two eras, now all those planets and areas are here in this circle. But now you're seeing look at these movement amounts to get to these different areas. 30 movement, 20 movement. So we move out into Alpha Centauri. We're moving out into Epsilon, Tau Ceti. Very, very cool. And then now the focus is still on pushing out, exploring and stuff like that. But now we're looking at more like colonization and things along those lines. One thing that I don't see in this game, oh, you can even actually run into aliens. I should point out, there's aliens right there. There's an example of aliens that you can run into right there. So we've got, as we start moving out, and we're changing the different boards, we'll have different things that we can explore. That's pretty cool. We've got other things that we can discover out there as well. Now, as I started off, when I started talking about the game, I mentioned that I'm really big into listening to audiobooks about, you know, how are we going to get to Mars and what's in humanity's future in the coming centuries. And there's a lot of talk that if we were going to get to this point where we're going to be going to Alpha Centauri, we will not resemble human beings anymore. It's possible that we would be to the point where we've adapted. We've got generation ships that are basically just ships that are taking colonies into space where, you know, they're just going to go through generational phases. So people who aren't even born yet are actually going to be the ones who end up in that galaxy and stuff. Have I listened to the Expanse audiobooks? I have. I have not listened to all of them yet. What I tend to do is I listen to the Expanse audiobooks after the show. So after each season of the show, it's like, oh yeah, okay, I'll listen to the audiobook that's taken from. So yeah, so I'm waiting on season 4. All right, anyway, so that is pretty much how the game works. And once again, you're still looking at, regardless of the oh, so Kabuki Kid bought the Expanse board game expansion. I have yet to play the Expanse. It was something I was really, really looking forward to checking out. WizKids is just about impossible to get review copies from. I think they put... I heard from someone from WizKids, but they were not the PR person. I was told that they usually take like 5 review copies to put them off to the side for all the reviewers that are out there. So, and I mean, I understand. You can't give everybody review copies of stuff, because it's like, you know, you'd be sitting there with a print run of 200 extra games just to get them out to reviewers. But I have heard good and bad about it. I've heard it's... people have compared it to Twilight Struggle, and then I've heard people say there's no way you can compare this to Twilight Struggle. It's absolutely, completely different and not as good. But anyway, so we've got all the different decks, and as we progress, we're going to start seeing, you know, bigger things like build 3s, move 4s. Then we get to the point where we'll see stuff like we'll even have like multipliers, like move times 4. So if your headquarter board is like 4 movement and you play another move card, boom, there's 20. So as I said, the Planeteers, not a lot of cards in the Planeteers. But once again, you're always going to have the same era ending, or once you get to the Starfarers, you're going to have the same end game results, where it's, you know, if there are no more cards in the draw deck and everybody's pretty much passed that they've all played their cards, because like I said, there's no limit to how many cards you can have in your hand. If you have 7 or more, you can't research, which is basically drawing cards. And if you have fewer than four or fewer, I should say, you get to draw a card from the top of the deck, not from the offers. You have to take it from the top of the deck. All right, so there's a lot cooking in this game. Once you wrap your head around some of the basics, it's pretty easy to move along through. But as I mentioned, you've got, if you're playing solitaire, you got your competition actions, your competition sheet. You also have your player aid here. There's 4 of these. But I do want to point out that you got to keep the rule books handy, because there are going to be some additional rules that pop up. So one of the things that I thought was pretty cool, and then of course, you're not just, there are some end conditions too for winning starfarers here, for colonies and that. Because colonies and money, still money is the name of the game. But one of the things that I like how the rules were set up is, for the multiplayer, okay, so here we go. Popping in here, it's kind of explaining the components, setting up the Mariners era, giving us the player turn, gaining an edge, the actions, kind of going and explaining that. And then all the different actions, how to end the era. And then it's like, okay, so play that. Okay, so we're going to play the planet. We're going to play the Mariners. So once you get a handle on the Mariners, well, boom. Now you can set up for Planeteers, and here are the additional rules for the Planeteers. So both the rule books are set up kind of the same way, the multiplayer as well as the solo player. So that you can kind of jump in, play around, get your feel for each of the eras before you try to wrap everything together. So very cool. So let's see what's going on. Same with Game of Thrones. The value of the book's way more than the show. Can't get into the shows. Well, I gotta be honest. Game of Thrones was another series that I read the first 3 books. It's kind of like Wheel of Time. Read the first 3 books and I was like, sorry, this is just dragging out. And it was taking Martin so long, because it seems and I'm not knocking the guy, but it seems like he's always like floating around as opposed to sitting working on the book. You know, so I don't know. A lot of his fandom has a love-hate relationship with him. Hey, he doesn't bother me. He's fine. So that is SpaceCorp. What do I think? So the components are really nicely done. Cardstock is really well done. This does carry an $82 MSRP. So it's jam-packed with gameplay. I have to point that out. There is a lot going on. I would not recommend this just for everybody, but if you are interested in the subject matter, this is a must-have. Now, I'm sure people are going to be like, well, you know, I already have Terraforming Mars. What do I need this game for? Well, this game takes you way beyond Mars, takes you way off into the future. Although, like I said, by 2300 AD, I don't think we're going out. I don't think we're going to Alpha Centauri and stuff like that, but that's just me. It's easy to learn. It's got different wrinkles for playing multiplayer as well as solitaire. As I mentioned before, I think this is going to actually be very popular as a solitaire game. Although the feeling I get is that it started off as a multiple player game, and then the solitaire rules were kind of added in as a bonus or after the fact. So simply because there's not like this weird like AI charts and stuff like that you have to follow. You're basically following the little section down here on the card. And sometimes it does lead to some things that might not necessarily be logical, but you're kind of looking at it. It's not like it's me versus this other company. It's your company versus everybody else. So I really dig Space. I think John Butterfield did a really great job with this game. I enjoy it. I mean, it might be a little too abstract for some people out there. I think the artwork's kind of cool. There is no real like information as far as, oh well, okay, so I see this is what this card represents, but what is that, right? So for an example, like Fusion Booster. Okay, so is there some reason to believe that we'll have these fusion boosters in the future? So, you know, just I'm just trying to point out that it's, you know, because sometimes I'm like, oh man, everybody's got to play this game. I don't want to say that simply, number one, because it's got an $82 MSRP, but I really enjoyed it. Now, I got to be honest, I only played once Solitaire, and I'm not sure if I had all, you know, the nuances of it, but we did play it twice with 3 players as far as multiple players, and I really liked it. And I like how with the game just plays differently with actual human beings, but I really liked it. On a scale of 1 to 10, I definitely give SpaceCorp 2025-2300AD an 8.8 out of 10. As I mentioned, it's not necessarily going to be for everybody, but really, really dug it. Really like it. All right, so tell you what, let me go back to here because I'm going to put this stuff away, and then we're real quickly, as a bonus, I am going to I'm going to unbox and we're going to take a look at Ghost Front, Belgium 1944 for Old School Tactical from my sponsor. That's right, from my sponsor, Flying Pig Games. So, yeah, I know. Not too exciting watching me toss stuff into a box, but you gotta do what you gotta do for me to do a bonus here. And I'm just gonna kind of toss stuff in, and I will sort this out at a later time. So first of all, let me get the game board. Get the decks together. So, Flying Pig Games rocks. Yes, Robert Moffat is a fan of Flying Pig Games. And Tiny Battle Publishing. Let's not forget Tiny Battle Publishing. That Tango Down looks pretty cool. Now, Mark H. Walker, like I've mentioned it before. We're pals. Mark sent me an email today asking, what exactly do I have from Tiny Battle? Because they sent a bunch of stuff, which I've been kind of, showing off here and there on Wargame Wednesdays. But some of the stuff that was sent was like expansions to core games that I do not have. So I had mentioned that to Mark, and I know Mark wants to get Tango Down in my hand, so he's double checking to see what do I have, so that they're not sending the same thing. I do want to point out that soon I will do some contests for Tiny Battle Publishing and probably some Flying Pig Games stuff. The newest from Flying Pig Games is Battle of Kursk. I don't have a giveaway for that, folks. But here, let's just, I'm just going to toss stuff in here. This is not how I normally put my games away. Don't worry. Just want to make sure that I don't accidentally forget to put something in here. No, yeah, I guess we'll do it like that. All right. Of course, I knew I would bump something and send something flying. Why wouldn't I? Okay. That looks awful. Oh, geez, I still have a deck of cards to put in here. Duh. Okay. Counters. More counters. More counters. I think that's it for the counters. Got the cards. Got these. I promise this is not how I normally treat my games. Just like I can't stand when, I don't know. I mean, everybody's got one of these kind of folks, right? Who kind of like strolls on up and, you know, you don't really know them all that well, but they know somebody who you're, you know, doing a game night or something. And then it's like they're sitting there. Now, I'm not completely anal about games and stuff, but if you're sitting there eating something greasy, and you think you're going to be playing with my cards and stuff like that, ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. Mark Walker, I don't know who Mark Walker is. I only know Mark H. Walker. So, mom voice, put your toys away, Jeff. Alrighty, so, as I mentioned, as a special bonus, I am going to take a look at Ghost Front for Old School Tactical. But before I do, yes, it is that time. I will do it really quickly. Yes, here comes Lil Whizbub. That's right, Ghost knew what was going on. Ghost World knew what was coming. Lil Whizbub. So, as I mentioned all the time, the Gaming Gang and thus the Daily Dope are not for profit. So, if you do like the Gaming Gang, or if you happen to like the Daily Dope, which is what you're watching right now, or you'll like them both, please consider making a donation to Lil Bub's Big Fund at the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. This is a fund that is granted out. These monies are granted out to organizations that care for special needs animals who are awaiting adoption. So, if animals are older, or maybe they're blind, maybe they're deaf, they have mobility issues, maybe they require certain medications, those animals still deserve a forever home. And a lot of times, get your hands on an older pet or a pet in need, you're going to see that you're really, really going to get like 20 times the love right back at you. So Ghost World likes to throw out a new bub thing every show. So today it's Saving Private Bub. Yeah, that's right. Saving Private Bub for Wargame Wednesday. All right, so as I mentioned, let's hop on in. Oh, I should point out, if you do make a donation, shoot me an email. My email address is right in the lower corner there, and I will give you a shout out on the following show. Most of the people who are doing it are just saying, hey, I don't need a shout out. Just wanted to let you know, appreciate the show. And they love pets too. They love animals too. So what can I tell you? All right. And if you want to learn more about Lil Bub, go to lilbub.com. She's a pretty amazing cat. So, as I mentioned, I am going to take a look at Ghost Front for Old School Tactical Volume 2. It's from Flying Pig Games. Designed by Shane Logan. Hey, what is... Damn it. Get out of there, you. Get out of there, extra slides. Thought I had gotten rid of those. Hey, that's what happens when I try to do a little bonus action. Anyway, Ghost Front is designed by Shane Logan. I am not sure who provided the artwork for this. Ghost Front is for Old School Tactical Volume 2. You have to have Old School Tactical Volume 2 to play. The game is for 2 players, ages 14 and up. Scenarios play anywhere in 45 minutes to 5 hours. Yes, another 5 hours. And it does carry an MSRP of $45. So let's switch on over to the other camera. All right, come on, you. Switch on over. All right, what's going on here? There we go. That's weird. Wouldn't switch over. It was like popping, just sitting there with me. Hey, Flaming Huron's here. Hey, Flaming Huron. How goes it? Good to see you. Yeah, a little late. You actually missed the review of the first game. So, I am doing a quick unboxing and first look at Ghost Front. So, it's Belgium 1944. Obviously enough, we got Bulge in here. The Ghost Front expansion welcomes old school players to Belgium in 1944 in the Ardennes. Furious battles are waged by Hitler's loyal troops in one final push against the Allies. It's all or nothing. Hold out as a unit of the Screaming Eagles in Bastogne. Crash into the roadblock at Lousdel with your Panthers of the 12th SS Panzer Division. These battles and many more await your moves in the Book of Scenarios. Some new units are also included into the mix, including the M1 and M5 anti-tank guns for the US. The Stug 3G, Panzer 470 are added for the Germans, as well as new SS counters. And as I mentioned, ownership of Old School Tactical Volume 2 is required. All right, so let's get the shrink off of this. So we're going to have some data cards. We're going to have a new map. I know that. We're going to have some new forces as well, some new units. Now, this is a pretty long box. So it's about, I want to say it's the same length as Old School Tactical, maybe a hair smaller. All right, so we got the playbook. So let's take a look at the playbook here. Okay, so there we got new unit cards, which I'll zoom in and we'll take a look at those. But we'll look at Ghost Fronts. So yes, Old School Tactical Volume 3 is on the horizon. Looks very, very cool because it's the Pacific. Yes, some action in the Pacific. I'm not sure how close Mark and the team are to getting that out there. I'm assuming it's going to go out on Kickstarter. So, Ghost Front, Belgium, 1944. Kind of talking a little bit about, we'll give you some background. So, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, I knew we would have a scenario. Nuts. To be Bastogne. What do we got? 10 or 12? I'm going to guess. Well, we usually get like 12 scenarios from Flying Pig. Oh, we got 11. So there we go. All right. So we've got from... Is all in 44? Yep. So looks like pretty much everything's in December. So that is one of the reasons why we've got a new map. And that new map is going to be snow-covered. So there you go. Joyous Noel. So we've got a Christmas scenario there. Okay. So that is our playbook. Not seeing any new rules. Anything as far as any sort of new rules. Just seeing some new units. So we'll take a look at those in a sec. Got the nice big meaty counters there, those inch counters. All right, so we got a huge map, and it's one piece. I guarantee it's going to be one big piece again. Yep. So, see, Mark likes to do this just to make it impossible for me to actually unfold this so people can see the whole map. So, it's probably like almost half of it. This is my guess. So, yeah, how much more? Yep, we're gonna unfold now. So that, yep, so that is half. Oh no, it's a little bigger than that. So, yeah. Yep, of course we can't show the whole thing. Mark likes to sit there and just mess with me because he knows I'm a big fan of modular boards. In my opinion, now, okay, granted, yes, we are basically, this is a bulge game, so yes, it's going to be pretty much same terrain, same area, but in my opinion, I think when you have like modular boards, modular maps, really boosts the replayability. Really, the replayability of the game. Oops, upside down. Really shines because that way you can have a lot more options as far as how you're setting up the boards. All right, so let me zoom in here, and we're going to take a look at the counter sheets. There we go. So, as I mentioned before, we've got the big chunky counters. I think these are 3/4 of an inch. These aren't the inch. But they're still big, easy to read counters. I can take the reading specs off and I can read these counters, and I'm like back. I can still read them. So we've got the Axis forces, the Germans. We've got the anti-tank guns. We've got some more U.S. troops. We got airborne foxholes. We got tanker Sergeant Hardy. We got a lieutenant for the Axis, and then we've got the vehicles. So we've got some Jeeps, M10s. We got some Hellcats. We got the M4s. Then we got the different Panzers. We got different Panzer units here. So we've got Panzer IVs, King Tigers, yeah, baby. And they are dual-sided. So with infantry, there is a step reduction for infantry. But for armor and for vehicles, there is not. So that's why we got the wreck on the back, whereas we see the step reduction here. So we've got that. Yeah, actually, this is a really cool map. Like I said, I like old school tactical. And now I did not play the first volume, but I have the second volume. I reviewed the second volume, and my nephew Cameron and I have played, and it's meaty enough where it's like, you know, oh yeah, if you're a long time grognard, then you're like, yeah, right. But it's light enough to get into. It's easy enough to learn how to play. So now it's not necessarily easy to learn how to win, but it is fairly easy to learn how to play. All right, so we've got let's sort these out. Oh my gosh, we've got the Special Invisible Troops. I don't know if anybody remembers those from 1944. I don't. Oh, that's right. It's not. It hasn't been declassified yet. Sorry, forget it. I didn't say anything. All right, so we've got the U.S. and we got the Axis. So for the U.S., got the M4 Jumbo with its 75mm gun, the M5 anti-tank gun, the M1 anti-tank gun, and then we've got the Jeep. So we've got the Jeeps added to it. Old School Tactical Volume 2's got a good selection of vehicles. There's quite a lot of unit cards in that. All right, so we got the Stug, SS rifle squads. So those are new units, and Panzer IV. Panzer 470. Cool. So those are the new unit cards. And all your info is laid right out here for you, too. And one thing that I think is pretty cool that in this game here is even the infantry and like engineers and stuff like that, they all have their own card, even though most of their info is right on their counter. They still have their own card. And, of course, they are an elite unit for the SS rifle squads. All right, so we've got... Let's zoom back on out. So we've got the counter sheet. We've got the new units. We got some blank cards there. We've got the big monster map. What does it say on the box? I think the box tells us exactly how big this map is. All right, come on. It is 30 by 41 inches. Right there. 30 by 41 inches. So we got the big map, the counter sheets, the new unit cards, and the 11 scenarios. And that is what we find when we take everything from Ghost Front, Belgium, 1944, outside the box. And this is available from my friends over at Flying Pig Games. As I mentioned before, you do need Old School Tactical Volume 2 to be able to play this. Carries an MSRP of $45. I have seen it bit lower on some online retailers, just to point that out. So, a couple of things to wrap up with. If you are interested, if you liked taking a peek at SpaceCorp 2025-2300 AD, then by all means, grab it while you can. GMT Games tend to run out, their print runs run out of stock pretty quickly. So this is not going to last. This is not going to float around. I'm pretty sure you can still get it from the GMT website, but I am going to take a guess this is going to go out of print because I think there's more focus from people wanting to play it solitaire than playing it multiplayer, but multiplayer is actually a lot of fun. Okay, so just to point that out, and then of course you can pick up Ghost Front for Old School Tactical as well. So what is cooking on the Daily Dope for the rest of the week and into next week? So tomorrow's Thursday. It is RPGs on Thursdays. So I am going to take a first look at Castle Falkenstein, as well as the Kamifo, I think that's how it's pronounced, supplement for Castle Falkenstein from our Telsorian Games. I've always heard some good stuff about the steampunkish Castle Falkenstein, so we'll be taking a look at that. On Friday's show, I'm sure this is going to actually draw some interest because I am going to unbox and take a first look at Traveler Ascension Imperial Warrant. I interviewed my friend Terry Coleman from Daring Play Games at Origins, and this had not come out yet. It was like, I think it was 3 years after getting kickstarted, it finally arrived. This is very, very hefty. This looks very, very interesting as well. So that's on Friday's show. Monday's show, I will be reviewing Helios Expanse. This is not a retail copy. This was a pre-production copy, but I will be reviewing this. This is from Greenbrier Games. On Tuesday's show, we're going to go back-to-back on Tuesday and Wednesday with some Stronghold Games action. We're going to do an unboxing, take a first look at Kanban, the Driver's Edition. This is kind of the kind of deluxe edition of Kanban that just came out. And then on Wednesday's show, we are going to take a look at Forum Trajanum, which is also from Stronghold Games. Now, this is not a war game, but this is a historical game. So we're going to take a look at that. And then, of course, I will probably have another bonus first look at something from either Flying Pig Games or from Tiny Battle Publishing. Keep in mind, both Flying Pig Games and Tiny Battle Publishing happen to be sponsoring Wargame Wednesday tonight. So very, very cool. Okay, so is Traveler based on the RPG? Yes, it is. It is based on... Traveler Ascension is based on Traveler Ascension. Traveler Ascension is a specific brand of Traveler. There are some different kind of brands of Traveler, I guess I would say. Different styles of Traveler as far as an RPG. But yes, it is based on... In fact, I'll show you the back. I have to back out a little bit. It is based on the role-playing game. So each of the players is like a faction, and you'll have different characters, different ships, things like that you're sending out, doing all these different things. It sounds really, really interesting. So that is it for today's show. So do want to point out, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, please visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. By now you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. I will be back tomorrow to take a look at Castle Falkenstein. So until then, thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you liked this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.